First of all, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling way better. My stomach does not hurt.
Great.
Um, I the big thing that happened today was I fell asleep at 8 last night.
Hmm.
I woke up at 7-ish for my meeting, and then went back to sleep until 2. So I think I went into turbo rest mode and it fixed my body.
That's good. I'm glad.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy too because I just one of the things I had to get done tonight was Oh, I forgot. I have to email a professor something. I'll do that tomorrow. Um, but one of the things I had to get done today was my lesson plans
Hmm.
for next week, and I won't say I threw them together because I've had the basic ideas planned out, but we changed what we were doing this week, so I kind of threw together some stuff, and I sent it, and I was like, "Hey, will this work?" And she was like, "It's excellent," and I was like,
Nice.
"Incredible."
Nice. That's always
Uh,
good to hear from people.
yeah. So, mm. Are we recording or?
Yes.
Okay. So, for the listeners that do not know, then, if this is part of the cold open, I was very sick to my stomach yesterday at around lunch. And uh, because of that, and because of my stuff going on with my placement, um, I'm isolating just because it could mean I have COVID. I'm pretty sure I don't. I think it was just the fries from the calf were doused in grease, and it did not vibe with my stomach. But um, just in case, I am quarantining, and there is a test that I took Wednesday, going on to wherever Calico sends it, and I'll hopefully hear back from that soon.
Hello and welcome to Fools and Fiction. We are the Fools, and this time the fiction is season one of the show Magicians that Chris showed us that we watched while working out. Um, it is it is good, and we wanted to talk about it. It has been. I'm looking it up now. Over a month since our last episode. That was just because we were getting settled into the beginning of the semester, but we should be good to go back on a normal schedule, on a regular schedule from here for a while.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Um, I guess we reserve the right, as we always do, to just not put out an episode for a long time. What will you do? Um, but yeah, we are back and we're ready to talk about this show.
So I wanna start just by saying I did not go into this show with really high expectations, which is a touch rude of me, but The Magicians has a very big CW show vibe to it,
Yeah, even though it's
and
on sci-fi, but yeah.
yeah, um, and I will say there are many things on CW I like the DC stuff. However, very critically, it has a formula that I don't think works out too well, and it's all mushy, and it drags out a lot. And so I was very happily surprised
Yeah.
watching this.
I don't think I've seen something that has that like distinctive CW vibe. And again, it's not actually CW, but that vibe that has also been like, oh, I really enjoy these characters and their hijinks. So that was
Yeah,
cool.
I I also think that it does a good job of having a diverse cast, but not in the kind of CW way where it's just this character has the trait that they are gay, and
Hmm.
that is their one character trait. Um, it actually has so to my knowledge, it has a bi character, um, a South Indian character. Uh, the main character is um I don't want to say neurodivergent because I don't think depression and stuff counts under that umbrella, but has very severe depression. Um there is another character of color, although I don't think we know um, if what I almost said what they are, which would have had me canceled. But it's pretty like diverse and naturally so, which is you wouldn't think so because like the main guy is white hipster dude,
Hmm.
but I've really enjoyed it thus far.
Yeah, when I was starting out, I was thinking of Quinnen as discount, just kind of to pivot, but I was thinking of Quinnen as discount Sam Winchester, and then I saw a poster or something that had Sam Winchester on it, and I'm like, wait, that's discount Quinnen. And I
Yeah,
think that speaks to
exactly.
how well he's established as a character. Which brings me to another point of something I really like about this show, something else I really like, which is it's acted really, really well. Everyone just like all the actors just bring so much to each character, and something else that helps with that is the show. The writing is. I don't mean the writing as in the story writing, which I also like, but the actual like dialogue and stuff is kind of it feels both natural and kind of quirky and kind of fun, which is a weird or like a difficult balance, but it
It
all kind of
feels like
comes together to make
something.
cool, really good characters, I think.
It feels like something that like you like someone naturally could say, but you would look at that person and be like, they like what you just said is a bit off.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
when shows try to have like the quirky character, they'll say things that like no one would feasibly say, whereas with this, like it's possible.
and they like if there's I'm trying to think of an example, but I can't think of one. There's often like they'll often call out some like really weird thing happening, or like they'll note that something is very similar to some other piece of media that we know in the real world, in a way that kind of adds to the realism and makes the characters seem like, oh, they're saying what I would say in that situation, which is cool. Can you think of an example? They don't mention Narnia because Narnia I
No,
don't think exists.
yeah, Narnia is too close to the main premise, but they bring up I think they bring up the Breakfast Club in one of
Yeah,
them. Like and they did it frames before I mentioned it. And I was like, no, how could they?
yeah,
Um it's once again it's one of those things that like the references to pop culture feel like something I would say, not like, oh, this character references pop culture all the time.
yeah. Exactly. It's written with someone who like by someone who really knows both what people think about and how they talk. If that
Hmm.
makes any sense.
I also to pivot a bit back to the acting, like
Mhm.
sure, like their acting is very good, but their facial acting, like the
Yes.
expressions they give are so good. Um, and there's a lot of really good cinematography in it as well. Which I'm like not super qualified to speak on. I haven't taken any classes, but I can at least look at it and be like, wow, I love this shot.
Yeah. I mean, maybe that's the point of cinematography, or one of them.
I mean, fair.
Um, Speaking of the cinematography, holy fucking shit! Did I
Cinematography.
cinematography? Uh, I didn't think that was a meme I had internalized. I know there's some I have, but I didn't think that was one of them. Speaking of the cinematography, they do some cool color stuff with the different worlds because there's a few different worlds going on. There's Breakbills, which is like very clear color
Hogwarts.
grading. Yeah, there's the real world, which starts out orange and then becomes blue after episode like 2 for some reason. And then there's the the upside down. What is it called? The Netherlands, which is
Grayscale.
great. Yeah, gray, and also Dutch angle, which is not part of color grading, but you go what I mean.
I forgot that it is very Dutch angle.
And then at the very end of season 1, we have Fillory, which is bright. Um, oh, that's something I wanted to talk about. Is I was really surprised. So like they like these as much as these characters feel like people in the real world, they also keep on and as much as they reference like the pop culture that we know, they also reference this piece of pop culture that we don't know, which is the Fillory book series. And at the beginning I was like, oh, this is just a book series I haven't read because these people feel like such real people. Obviously, they're referencing a real thing. But as season 1 progresses, it becomes more and more clear that Fillory is like a staple of this world, or not a staple, but a staple for these characters. That is a staple of their own world, and it's really like with very distinct references that a lot of people know. Not everyone, but like they'll make references to the garden path and you're like, oh, was that something I should have known about? But of course not, because it's something that was made up for the show. So I just think it was really cool that they like injected like an additional pop culture thing into a show that already makes pop culture references, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And made no kind of comment on it and just had us slowly learn about it as not as the characters did, but as as a framing device for the first season.
I think something I really liked. So Fillory is like very obviously Narnia inspired.
Yes.
Um, but I think that like it's more so most people only have their one experience with The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Which is fine. Like I think it's probably the best out of the series. And so, watching it, you can go, okay, Fillory's like a pretty decent allegory or comparison, and there's some comparisons with the royalty having to be like humans, but there are like it has a lot of the same feelings that all of Narnia has, and kind of the quirkiness of it. There's
Yeah.
So there are deities in Fillory, and they are somewhat similar to higher powers in Narnia, but like it's not just lip service to it being like, oh, we have to have a framing device. These people in World War II find a magic place, but like, um, it's very. It goes through a lot of effort to be Narnia, but if you looked at it critically, like as an adult, um,
Its
and
own. Oh, sorry, I misunderstood what you were saying. Yeah, yeah, I agree.
yeah, so I mean, I really like it. I mean, we end the season still in Fillory, uh, and so we might stay there for a bit. I'm not sure.
I'm really hoping
Um,
season 2 is pretty much just Fillory. I think that would be cool.
I would
Like
like
their
that.
own little D&D kind of feeling adventure in Fillory.
Mhm.
Um,
Um,
or maybe for like 5 episodes or something.
yeah, like I think I don't know if it has to be all the season, but
Yeah.
like at least an arc should be in there.
Yeah.
Um,
That kind of brings me to something I don't like about it, or that I didn't like about one particular episode at least. The finale of season 1. So this show is set up with a lot of like elements, in a Ruby kind of way, where it's like you have Fillory and you have these particular people who are related in this particular way to Fillory, and oh, there's this time loop going on, and there's also witches, and there's also gods, and there's also like the beast, and it's one of those like very constructed stories, which I always think are really cool because it's really cool to see all the pieces come together and everyone is coincidentally exactly where they need to be at the right time. But it also kind of takes away a little bit from the realism. And in the final episode of season 1, they did a kind of like summary kind of thing where it's just like, here are all the events that happen in this like few month period where they're in Fillory, and oh, you can see how everything is tying together. And then they did have a twist at the end where it tied together even better than we thought it did. But it just, to me, it made it a little less personal when it was just like, here are all the pieces and how they fit together, rather than, I just think they could have taken a little more time in the final episode to show how things evolved, rather than just being like, look, we made this big puzzle and it all fits together.
I think it makes sense in that like it is what Quentin would logically do to frame what's
Yeah,
going
yeah, yeah,
on.
yeah, yeah.
But
Because
I
it's
also
framed from Quentin's
definitely
perspective. Yeah,
I definitely agree that like we could have like a season 1.5 where it's other characters' perspective in it,
yeah.
and it's not through like
We
a
could have had some
framing
mini
device.
sessions.
Yeah. Um, but I think that overall I really like it. I liked the twist at the
I,
end.
I like the twist too.
Um, and it was related to some very heavy subject matter. Um, that I really liked that they did it because they put it in there for something other than to just have heavy subject matter. Um, like so some stories will throw in like a violent murder just to have like a character go crazy or something like that.
Hmm.
Um, rather than it all interconnect. And something that I really liked that this show did is that after episodes with really serious topics, they would always put out like a help
Like a
line or like
hotline.
yeah, like services that you could call or look up. So I know they had one for suicide and for sexual assault, and I thought it was very cool of them to at the very end put in like, hey, if you were experiencing these things, like please get help.
Yeah.
Um, which is I've seen like enough things to count on one hand and still have enough fingers to pick up a coin. So I really liked it a lot. And I thought that, they didn't even need to do it because they handled a lot of things really delicately, but putting it in, going that extra mile, I really liked.
It's really cool as well that the it's not just that the bad things happen to the characters we like for some plot reason. It's also the bad things happen to the characters we like, and we see how that informs the characters' decisions. Like it seems like things come around. Despite what I said about the final episode, things do seem to come around because the characters are making the choices that cause them, and I think that's a really important distinction, as opposed to just like they're all pawns in some bigger game, which is what the very beginning of the season kind of felt like. I think, sorry, my brain's going all over the place, but I think that the point where I realized that these were all just people like trying to achieve their own goals, and there was not some big conspiracy in universe around Quentin, was when what's her name got killed, Jane, as an adult.
Oh, Eliza?
Yeah, Eliza. Thank you. That's her name. Um, for listeners who don't know anything about this, Jane and Eliza are the same person. There's a big reveal that
Secret.
Eliza is Jane. But at that point, you're like, oh, we're on an open road now. Which is another reason why I felt like the how neatly everything happened in the final episode didn't quite sit well with me. But my point is that for the majority of it, for everything but that last episode, the characters really did feel like they were driving the story, and I think that's really cool.
Oh, I think something interesting about it is that like it felt like the characters were driving the story, but also, and we do learn that like there was some manipulation in it,
Yeah. So there are
but
like greater powers controlling things, but the greater powers are not like
good
God
at it.
or like yeah, they have their own agendas and they can be stopped. And like that's
Yeah.
cool.
Um, and there's also like, they aren't forcing these characters to make these changes. They're basically like, it's kind of like chemistry where they're like adding something into an equation and watching to see what had happened.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, I don't know. There's also,
It's got a lot of Amnesty vibes. If any of our audience has listened to the Adventures in Amnesty, um, which Griffin like had all these like did I think a similar kind of story writing kind of thing where he had these elements and he had some like bigger forces trying to do their control, but he legitimately didn't know how it was going to turn out. Well, okay, that's not a similarity, but like the characters feel like they're driving things, and there's also big forces at play. They give it some
mhm.
kind of larger structure.
um, Another thing that I kind of am on the fence about with this is the magic system. Um, so part of it is that like there is a school for magic. There you have Break Bills, which is the Hogwarts of this place. Um, but one of the things that so I usually dislike like hard magic systems because then it's just sci-fi but you swapped out the words.
Sure.
Um but this one also like it had some of the soft magic of like you have to figure out something and there's no one way to do stuff
And it comes from
and
your emotions, which I always like.
yeah and there's like some people are just better at different types of magic or can do stuff that other people can't,
Hmm.
um which I think is always a plus. um
Yeah, Alice saying she doesn't know how, like, what her limits really are, but then also like having to like learn the hand emotions.
yeah,
They combine that in a really cool way.
something I also really like regarding that is that the main character of Quentin is like kind of shitty, like he kind of sucks at magic. um like he's not inept, but he's definitely not like the once in a generation wonder kid.
Yeah, and
um
that's like that was a really cool thing for him to realize in that final episode, like where for him it seemed like everything was coming into place, and then he was like, you know what, maybe I'm not actually the big hero.
yeah, which I mean, in one sense, he is, as he is like the protagonist and the
Sure.
character we see everything from. But in the other sense, like him just being like, yeah, there are things greater than me out there, and I have to like deal with that. Very good. He's one of those characters that like gets by not by talent, but kind of like passion,
Yes.
um, which is always a good thing to see.
I think it interweaves really well with the kind of ensemble cast uh, writing style, where like, oh, now we've got a bit of the episode focused on Penny, and now we've got a bit of the episode focused on Alice. It feels more like we're following a group rather than one particular person, and that allows us to kind of sidestep the chosen one motif, which is really cool. At the end of season one, when we were like, oh, it's not Quentin, it's Alice, and then it wasn't even Alice. Like that was
Um,
cool. I like, even though I think it went by too fast, that was a very cool plot moment.
yeah. Um, I also like how it doesn't make apologetics for like bad people. Um,
Yeah,
so there's a character named Clover, I think is his name, um,
Plover. Yeah,
who like did some pretty heinous and fucked up shit. Um, and we later like find him, and they're like, yeah, like he kind of deserves to die. Fuck him. Like it doesn't like sure just because he had some suffering elsewhere does not like excuse his actions. And I was like,
yeah,
yes,
yeah, and
they did it.
especially when they thought he was the big bad evil guy for a little bit. But then it's big reveal it wasn't him. It's not like they're like, oh, we're so sorry, we thought you were the big bad evil guy. It's, you're still like a piece of shit. You don't deserve like our forgiveness. But now we are also going to focus on who actually is the big bad evil guy, who maybe does deserve a little bit of forgiveness.
Um, fucking, I can't remember his name now.
Yeah, Martin is his name.
Yes. Um, so I think it's going to end up being fuck Martin. All my homies hate Martin.
Yeah, it's gotta be.
Um, but like just the fact that they kind of left it open is interesting.
He's got a much more interesting villain backstory than Plover would have, because
Yeah.
Plover was just bad man, who we originally thought was good man. So here's how the arc went. We went Plover, good man, and it's like, oh no, Plover, bad man. Oh no, is Plover the big bad man? And then we're like, ooh, Martin, good boy, because he is a boy in like the vision that we see him in. And then we're like, oh wait, Martin is the big bad evil guy, but he was still a good boy. And then it all kind of ties into each other, because the reason that Martin is big bad evil man is directly a result of Plover being bad man. So
I think one of
it's a like they've been setting up this villain backstory for Martin without us realizing that Martin is the villain for a while, and that's pretty cool.
I think another good thing about it is that we might be seeing Julia fall into the same trap
Yeah,
where she appears to be making a Faustian bargain out of revenge, much like Martin did.
which is kind of what I want for her, but I still also don't want her to turn into Big Bad Evil Guy number two.
Yeah. I mean, do I want her to get revenge? Fucking yes, of course.
Yeah,
The what happened to her is fucking horrendous.
I
However, do I want her to go ape shit crazy? No.
I hadn't made that connection between Julia and Martin until you said that. That's really interesting. Julia's like a pre Big Bad Evil Guy Martin in some
Yeah.
ways. I never made that connection. That's really cool. Um, Something entirely unrelated, not
And now
thematic
for
at
something
all,
entirely different.
is I was overjoyed when I learned about the time loop mechanic because I love that shit. So I made a Call of Cthulhu campaign that had the exact same mechanic as the time loop from the beginning or from season one of The Magicians, where there's some power that is aware of the time loop and causes the time loop, and at the start of every one they change one thing and see what happens in order to like engineer a situation with a like desirable outcome. And I was very happy when I thought I invented that for I didn't really think that, but I had never seen another story that used it when I ran it when I used it for Call of Cthulhu. So seeing a show that I really like, and then at the end of season one or three quarters of the way in season one, they're like, by the way, we've been on a time loop and we've been changing one thing every time, and this is what we changed for this loop, and here's how it's been affecting things, and here's who knows about it, and here's who doesn't, and here's why this is the final loop, or like this is the final playthrough, or whatever. Like that was so cool to see that idea done like in a much more like professional setting of a TV
Yeah.
show. It was like, oh, good shit.
You've reminded me of Dean, one of the characters that is aware of the time loop but can't do anything, and
Yeah,
how my brain was like, Dean is now Sans Undertale.
yeah.
But even better, so Dean is an aptly named Dean of Breakbills.
That's not his name, is it?
I feel like it is his first name. Hold on, I'll look it
No,
up.
don't Google it. We're gonna get spoiled. I can
No,
ask.
it's not. His first name is Henry.
Yes, that's right. That's it.
Okay. We're directed to call him Dean
Yeah.
by him. Like he tells people to call him that. But just like the fact that they're at a college,
It's like when we
is
learned that Big Joel's name is Henry.
God,
Sorry,
I
go
forgot.
ahead.
No, it's just being at college lets them have a lot more mature character interactions
Yes, I love it.
and fully developed character interactions. Because, like, one of my big gripes for My Hero Academia is that they're in high school,
Hmm.
which means that, like, which in a vacuum is a very odd sounding gripe, but, like, they're kind of dipshits and they just, like, aren't fully developed. And so it's nice to see them grow, like, from, kind of teenagers into young adults. But I think a lot more compelling stuff can happen when you have, like, young adults growing as people.
Something that, yeah, I've noticed with like my own tastes in fiction as I've grown up, as I'm no longer a child, is that like it gets kind of frustrating just seeing like young adult or child stuff, and you're like, why are all these characters acting like children? And then you're like, they
Yeah,
are children. So I'm like, in a way that I never would have imagined, I'm starting to see the appeal of like adult fiction, and having this adult fiction where they're still going to fucking magic school is excellent. Like that's perfect. Like it wasn't the setting that I have a problem with now. It's that the characters are acting like children, and now they're not, except like when they do every once in a while. But that's just like it turns out adults also act like children sometimes.
as an adult, can confirm.
Yeah, so it's just really cool to
Children.
see adults as our characters. Like I just, yeah, I'm really starting to see the appeal of adult fiction.
Yeah, well, because, like, sometimes I want to yell at characters that are like children. I'm like, your brain isn't fully developed. Like, stop making mistakes. Like, develop your brain. But I can look at these people and I'm like, you guys are just dickheads that don't know shit. Like,
Yeah,
uh,
it feels less inevitable with these guys.
yeah. Because like when I when I watch them make a big fuck up, I'm like, wow, not only could that have been sidestepped, but I have seen that occur to real people. Like
Mm.
the things that are going on, like cheating and drug dependency and shit like that, um, are things that I have seen happen, not to like really good friends, but acquaintances, where I was like, you could have avoided this. Um, and note, this is not me saying that like once you are addicted to drugs, you are a bad person, like you need help. But like if you, you know, vented more or didn't bottle things up, like you could avoid some of the pain.
Yeah,
Um,
and it's cool to see the characters note that themselves. Like
yeah,
they've got enough maturity to note when they've like what is causing them to feel the way that they're feeling or act the way that they're acting. Except I guess Elliot recently has been having a hard time with that, but like in the last episode for sure he realized what was up.
yeah.
Um,
Um, the big thing for me too is like there is more nuance in this in adult fiction in general, I suppose, than in, young adult or kid fiction because like, they're kind of early on there's an argument between Julia and Quentin where both of them have very valid points.
yeah, that's
Um,
a really good example.
and something that I noted when we were watching it is like I know exactly why Quentin is saying what he is saying, um, because I've lashed out in very similar ways, and I can see where he's right and I can see where he's wrong, um, and that makes him sympathetic, but also like you can say, oh, he's not right everywhere, but like not to pick on my hero, but I'm like just thinking of it. They're like, oh, this villain secretly actually wants Hero Society to be good. He just hates fake heroes. And then Stain turns out to just be like a mass murderer, and it's the what is it? It's like the cool motive still murder
Yeah,
thing. And I'm just like, yeah, he's a dickhead. Like I'm not compelled at all by him. Um,
and all of this isn't to say that children's media can't or shouldn't have complexity in it or have characters who are mature because like children can be mature for sure, and it's really cool to see that in children's fiction. But it's um oh that what is happening? One sec. Oh,
Someone's being killed.
my left ear just tinnitus. Like I got a ringing in my ear all of a sudden. I thought it was like the fire alarm going off, but no, it was my ear
Oh God.
tinniting for some reason. Now it's gone. That was really weird. Anyway, what was I saying? It's nice to have the expectation that the characters will act maturely.
Yeah,
And like not have that be a question going into every episode like are they going to pull some like some shit, which they do sometimes, but like when they pull the shit, it's not oh this is a normal way to act. It's they're doing something shitty and we need to address it.
yeah. I don't know. I just think that like I feel very strongly about the show and that like I would recommend it to a lot of people. I think it's very well done.
It's
I
very
think
entertaining.
yeah. Um and it's one of those things that like you can put on and just watch or you can kind of put on and analyze. In either way you have a good time with it. Um and I mean, Finn and I just analyze everything, and so that's the way we go into it. But I mean, even if I were dead tired, I could look at this and be like, "This is good,
Yeah.
good fiction."
Yeah, for sure.
The highest praise from us, good fiction.
Yes. Uh I don't know if I have anything else to say about this. I think that we covered it. I like the show a lot. I'm really looking forward to watching more seasons past season 1. Um yeah, it's good. It's not like something I like about it is that it's not trying to be some masterpiece like the OA or something. It's not like so carefully constructed and everything is so carefully acted and everything is so carefully shot. Like it's a like serialized episodic show with some like somewhat staple characters, but it's like really good at it.
Yeah, it's so not to shit on OA because I love that, but like I do not think the Magicians is as meticulous and careful as the OA is, or stuff like that. But I think it's one of those things that like we're gonna make a show that is somewhat serious, so we might as well make it a damn good one.
Yeah.
Um, and so there's a lot of stuff in there that they didn't have to do, but they did, and that makes it better, like the
They,
color grading
yeah, they're
and
adding some cool stuff onto a kind of standard base rather than shooting for the stars immediately.
yeah, and I don't know, I really like it. I think most of the characters in there are great. They really do a good job on selling us for like liking these people, even though they have like pretty major flaws.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm also really enjoying it in the context of The Adventure Zone Graduation, which is also a magic school show that is coming out that I don't like as much as this. Because they're
Interesting.
like so rarely at school or doing anything related to school. Whereas this,
Yeah,
they are more often at school, which I like
that
a lot.
is that is something that I have to nag on other things that are like, oh, it takes place at a school. Um, like part of the it takes place at a school is seeing the people do their studies.
Yeah.
And so, sure, The Magicians does not have like an episode entirely on exams or something, but we often do see these people, studying or working on stuff. And then we also see like parties and whatnot that
Yeah. Yeah.
as a
School things.
certified cool guy, I've definitely been to some parties like this. Don't fact check me on that.
It's oh shit, lost my train of thought, sorry.
Get him.
So
Um,
let me see if I can think of it again. Um no, I can't. Let us continue.
all right. Finn has been thoroughly derailed. I've done it. Um,
Derailed by nothing. I tripped over nothing.
uh, I think my final thoughts are very good. I think we could have one more main character.
Yes, we could get one more main character for sure. I compared this show to Buffy a lot for some reason, and we could
It's
get
it's
like
very much like Buffy.
yeah, it's like Buffy and a little bit of Supernatural and a little bit of Ruby in some ways, a little bit of what's it called? Harry Potter. How did I forget what Harry Potter was called? Uh, it's like a lot of different things kind of combined in a really satisfying, coherent way. Narnia.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, yeah, it's good stuff. You should watch it. It's on what is it on Netflix?
Yeah.
Yeah, Netflix.
Also, if enough of you watch it, we might get a season 6 because Sci-Fi dropped it after season 5, and I think at least a couple of the actors have said like they would be copacetic with doing another season.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Oh, I remember the thing I was going to say. Uh, it was a small thing. It was just that in like a kind of in a way that seems fundamental, they are slowly learning magic, even though it's not always in the school setting. Like they'll learn about the consequences of magic and the
oh,
sources of magic, and that makes it kind of a magic school show, even when they're not at the school, which I like.
that's a good point. I hadn't thought of it that way, but that's very true.
Like even uh shit, what's her name? Julia is learning magic stuff, even though she's not at the magic school.
Hmm. All
Anyway, that was all
right.
timing back to that past point.
Unless you have anything to add, I think it is time to do the plugs.
Yeah. Uh,
Um,
do you want to do it or
which
should I?
I'll do it.
Okay.
Email us at foolsandfiction@gmail.com. If you have questions, comments, concerns, or gifts, especially if you have gifts. Um, no, we have a subreddit at r/fools and fictions where you can discuss and stuff if you want to. Leave us a review and a comment on the podcast app or iTunes or whatever it is that you
It's
use to hear us.
science still doesn't know if it's iTunes or the podcast app. It's one of them.
um, Should we shout out the William and Mary Podcasting Network, something that I do not think we are affiliated with anymore?
It's on Science also doesn't know whether we're affiliated with the William
Okay,
and Mary
good.
Podcasting Network.
Good. I'm happy that no one else in this duo of dumbasses knows.
It is unclear if we have paid dues, and it is unclear if we are like physically on the network. But
I think we are members in bad standing, is what it might be.
Regardless, you should check out the network because there are some good shows on there.
Yeah.
That's
Spreaker.com/user/PNWM.
Nice. Good memory.
I think that's it. Are those all the calls to action? Oh, if you are on campus or personally know us, reach out to us if you want to be on an episode. I don't remember when the last time we had a guest was.
It's been a while.
I think it was D&D episode that we did.
That sounds right.
That had Chris on it.
Yeah, that was.
But yeah, we're always
2 episodes
happy.
ago.
Yeah, we're always happy to have guests on.
Video sauce on that one.
I'm not going to make any sweeping predictions, but hopefully next episode will be on the new season or the new volume of Ruby, which we have to like speed watch.
Yeah, I'm pretty busy at the beginning of this coming week, which kind of startled me when I looked at my calendar today. But as the week goes on, like near the end of it, I'll probably be up for it.
Yeah, let me... it is not done. Holy shit, really? Oh, they took a break during January. Okay, that explains it.
Oh, also check out Galactic Gazette, our other podcast, which is
Oh,
D&D.
fuck.
We are starting season 2 now. One episode is already out, and we are recording the second one tomorrow. We're adding 2 hours to each episode, to each session, so that'll be fun. They're doing a prison break next session. If they are not arrested immediately first,
we're gonna completely fuck it up. I know. We have a secret chat hidden away from Finn on what we are doing for the prison break, and boy, is it not going well.
Oof.
Not that like people are making bad decisions, just that like we may or may not be totally fucked.
I'm like totally worried that you all are going to do something like very obvious that I did not see and immediately succeed, and like, all right, I guess we have a 10-minute session.
The rest of the session is just like 5 hours of silence.
Yeah. 5 hours of the fire drill, like last session.
Incredible. All right. With that said, I think it's time for me to end them.
Do it.
Goodbye.
Please, for the love of God, turn the podcast off.